Tom had never thought of himself as important. He was an engineer on Orbital Station 12, a place that floated quietly above a blue planet. His work was simple but steady. He repaired doors, checked wires, and made sure the power systems ran without a problem. Most days were calm. He liked the silence of machines more than the noise of people. One morning, everything changed. Tom was called to the council chamber, a round room with long windows that showed the stars. Several human officers stood waiting. In the center of the room was someone Tom had never seen before. She was tall, with silver eyes that looked sharp and unblinking. Her skin had a faint blue shade, and she wore light armor with strange markings. "This is Myra," said one of the officers. "She is your new bodyguard." Tom blinked in surprise. "My bodyguard? I am only an engineer. Why would I need one?" The officer's face grew serious. 2 weeks ago, raiders attacked the station. They tried to steal data from the engineering sector. We believe they were after you, Tom. Your knowledge of the power systems makes you valuable. You know how to keep the station alive. If the raiders take you, they will use your skills against us. Tom felt his stomach turn. He had heard about raiders before, but he never thought they would care about him. He looked at Myra, who stood without moving, like a statue carved from stone. Myra finally spoke. Her voice was calm, but strong. "I will protect you. But I cannot protect you from a distance. I must stay near you at all times." Tom frowned. "Near me? What do you mean exactly?" Her silver eyes met his. "I mean that we must share a living space. If I am in one room and you are in another, there is a chance I will be too late. I cannot allow that. Your safety depends on me being close." The idea made Tom uncomfortable. He had always lived alone. His small room was messy, filled with tools, books, and half-finished projects. Now he was being told to share it with a stranger, and not just a stranger, an alien warrior who seemed to take every word as law. I am not sure about this," he said carefully. Myra's voice stayed calm, but there was no room for argument. "If you wish to live, you will accept." The council officer placed a hand on Tom's shoulder. "This is not a request. It is an order for your protection. Myra will guard you day and night." Tom sighed. He wanted to protest, but he knew it was useless. He nodded slowly. "Fine. I understand." That night, Myra followed him to his small room. Tom felt awkward as he opened the door. "It is not very big," he said. "I never expected to share it with anyone." Myra stepped inside and looked around. She did not seem bothered by the clutter. "Size does not matter. Safety matters." She placed her long weapon against the wall and sat on the floor in silence, as if she were already on watch. Tom tried to act normal. He picked up some tools from his bed and cleared space. "You can use the bed if you want," he offered, though he secretly hoped she would refuse. "I do not need much rest," Myra replied. "I will remain alert. Sleep if you must. I will hear any danger before it reaches us." Tom lay down but could not relax. The sound of Myra's quiet breathing reminded him that he was no longer alone. He kept thinking about her words. Raiders wanted him. They thought he was important. It was strange and frightening. Hours passed, and Tom turned from side to side, unable to sleep. At last, he sat up and looked at Myra. She was still on the floor, her eyes half open, as if she was both resting and awake at the same time. "You are really going to stay here every night?" he asked. "Yes," she said simply. "Until the threat is gone." Tom let out a breath. "This is going to take some getting used to." Myra tilted her head slightly. "Humans are not used to constant guard. My people are. We grow with danger. But you will adjust. For the first time, Tom noticed something in her voice. It was not just duty. It was certainty. She truly believed she could keep him safe. He leaned back on the bed, staring at the ceiling. Maybe this was not only about protection. Maybe it was also about trust. He did not know Myra, and she did not know him, but they were now bound together in a way he had never expected. Outside the station windows, the stars shone brightly, silent witnesses to a strange new partnership. Tom closed his eyes, hoping sleep would come, but his mind stayed busy. The life he had known was gone. Whatever was coming, he would face it not alone but with an alien guardian who refused to leave his side. Tom woke up earlier than usual. The first thing he saw was Myra sitting near the door, her back straight, her eyes open. She had not moved since the night before. He rubbed his eyes, wondering if she had slept at all. "You stayed there the whole night?" he asked. "Yes," she said. Her voice was calm, almost flat. "No threat came. You were safe." Tom sat up and stretched. "You know, humans usually take turns resting. Watching all night is not something we do." "I am not human," Myra replied. She stood and picked up her weapon. "My kind needs less rest. A warrior must be alert." Tom shook his head. It was clear she took her job seriously, maybe more seriously than anyone he had ever met. As he dressed for his shift in engineering, Myra stood near him, never turning away. Walking through the halls of the station, Tom felt the weight of curious eyes. People stopped to stare at the tall alien beside him. Myra's armor gleamed under the lights, and her silver eyes made her look almost unearthly. Tom heard whispers. Some humans seemed uneasy. Others looked impressed. "Do they always watch you like this?" Tom muttered. "They are watching you," Myra answered. "I am only the shadow that follows." Her words made him uneasy. He had never liked attention. But now it was impossible to avoid. When they reached the engineering bay, Tom tried to focus on his work. He fixed circuits, adjusted control panels, and checked the oxygen system. Myra stayed by the door, scanning the room with steady eyes. At first, her presence distracted him. Every time he turned, she was there, silent and still. But as the hours passed, he began to feel something else. A sense of safety. During a break, Tom sat at his workbench, sipping a warm drink. Myra stood across from him, watching. She did not touch food or water. "You never eat?" he asked. "I eat when it is needed," she replied. "But not like you. Your people take food often. My kind does not." Tom looked at her closely. "So, you really do not need much rest or food. How do you survive?" "Our bodies are built for endurance. Long battles. Endless guarding. It is our way." Tom nodded slowly. He tried to imagine what life must be like for her people, always ready for war. It sounded exhausting, but Myra made it seem natural. After work, they returned to his small room. Tom dropped his tools on the desk and sighed. "I am not sure how long I can live like this. I am used to quiet. Alone. Now I feel like I am always being watched." Myra tilted her head. "Being watched keeps you alive." "I know," Tom admitted. "But it feels strange." "Do you not feel strange, sharing a room with me?" "No," she said. "It is duty. I do not think about comfort. I think about your safety." Tom laughed a little. "You sound like a machine. Always duty, always rules. Do you ever relax?" Myra's eyes softened just slightly. "Relax? That is a human word. I do not relax. But I am curious." "Curious about what?" Tom asked. "About humans," she said. "You laugh when there is no danger. You tell stories about nothing. You drink warm liquids to feel calm. My kind does not do these things. Why do you? Tom was surprised by the question. He had not expected her to care about such details. Because it makes life better, he explained. We are fragile. We need small things to give us comfort. Laughter, food, warmth, those things remind us that we are alive, even when life is hard. Myra stood silent for a moment, as if she was turning his words over in her mind. Strange, she said at last. But perhaps useful. Comfort may give strength. The next days passed in a rhythm. Tom worked, and Myra followed. At night, she sat by the door while he tried to sleep. Slowly, he began to adjust. Her presence became less strange and more normal. She was like a wall between him and the outside world. One night, Tom woke from a dream and saw Myra staring out the window. Stars glittered beyond the glass. She looked almost human in that moment, calm and thoughtful. What are you thinking about? Tom asked quietly. She turned her head toward him. I was thinking about how humans live in silence between the stars. My people always hear war drums. But you live with hope. Tom blinked. He did not expect such words from her. Hope is what keeps us going. Without it, we would stop building, stop dreaming. Maybe that is why raiders want us. They see something in us that they cannot make themselves. Myra studied him. Her silver eyes were serious, but not cold. You may be right. That is why I stay close. Not only to protect your body. Perhaps also to protect what makes you human. Tom lay back on his bed, feeling a strange warmth in his chest. Myra was still a mystery, but he no longer felt only discomfort. There was respect growing between them, slow but steady. For the first time since she had arrived, Tom fell asleep without worry. And Myra, still guarding the door, let the silence of the stars keep watch with her. The station felt calm that evening. The lights in the engineering bay glowed softly, and the low hum of the power systems filled the air. Tom was finishing a repair on one of the cooling units, his hands steady as he tightened the last bolt. Myra stood nearby, her tall figure like a shadow against the door. She never relaxed. Tom glanced at her. You really do not get bored just standing there all day. Myra answered without moving. Boredom is weakness. I watch. I listen. That is enough. Tom gave a small smile. Well, if you ever want me to explain how these cooling units work, I can. It might not be exciting, but at least it is something to think about. Before Myra could reply, the bay lights flickered. Tom frowned. He tapped the control panel, thinking it was a small power glitch. But then a sharp alarm filled the room, its red light flashing. Myra's silver eyes narrowed. Raiders. The word made Tom freeze. He turned to the panel and tried to see where the alarm was coming from. They got inside. How? Myra raised her weapon, a long staff that glowed faintly with energy. Her voice was steady. They found a way through. Stay behind me. The door slid open before Tom could move. Two raiders stepped inside, their faces hidden by dark helmets. They carried weapons shaped like jagged claws. Myra reacted instantly. She moved with speed that Tom could hardly follow. The glowing staff spun, striking one raider and sending him crashing against the wall. The second raider fired, but Myra deflected the shot with a sharp twist of her weapon. Sparks burst against the metal floor. Tom backed away, his heart pounding. He had never seen a fight this close. Myra was calm, every motion precise. She knocked the second raider to the ground and pressed the tip of her staff to his chest. The energy buzzed, and the raider went still. The door alarmed again. More footsteps echoed in the hall. Myra pulled Tom close to her side. They are not here for random damage. They are here for you. Tom's eyes widened. Me? Why? You are the engineer who keeps the station alive, Myra said quickly. If they capture you, they control the systems. Tom's mind spun. He had always thought of himself as ordinary, but now he realized how valuable his knowledge was to enemies. He stared at the door, hearing the next group of raiders rushing closer. Myra pushed him toward a console. Lock the doors. Use your systems. Tom's hands shook, but he moved fast. He typed a code into the panel, sealing the engineering bay doors with thick steel. The sound of fists and weapons hitting the other side echoed through the room. The raiders were trapped outside, but Tom knew it would not last long. They will break through soon, he said, his voice tight. Then we fight when they enter, Myra replied. She stood tall, her weapon glowing brighter now. You stay behind me. Do not run. The pounding on the door grew louder. Tom felt his chest tighten. He had fixed machines his whole life, but he had never been the target of violence. For a moment, fear almost paralyzed him. But then he looked at Myra. She was steady, unshaken. If she could stand like that, so could he. Tom searched his mind for ideas. He spotted a set of motion sensors he had been testing earlier. Quickly, he wired them into the floor panels near the door. If they get through, these will trigger a shock, he explained. Myra glanced at his work and gave a small nod. Good. Human mind. Quick. The door finally cracked open, sparks flying as the raiders forced it apart. 3 more of them pushed through, weapons ready. But the moment their boots touched the floor, the sensors lit up. A wave of electricity surged, knocking 2 raiders down with a scream. The third stumbled forward, and Myra struck him with her staff before he could aim. Tom's heart raced, but he felt a rush of pride. His trap had worked. The last raider crawled back toward the broken door, dragging one of his wounded allies. The others followed. Within seconds, they were gone, retreating into the shadows of the station. The alarm slowly faded, leaving silence. Tom sat down heavily on the floor, his breath coming fast. I cannot believe that just happened. Myra lowered her weapon, her face unreadable. You did well. You used your mind. That is why they want you. That is also why you must stay alive. Tom looked up at her, still shaking. I thought you would protect me. But I ended up helping protect us. Myra gave the smallest hint of a smile, though it was hard to tell. Protection is not only strength. It is also thinking fast. Humans do this better than most. You are not as fragile as you believe. Her words stayed with him long after the alarms were silent. For the first time, Tom felt that maybe he was not only a burden. He was part of the fight. That night, when they returned to their shared room, Myra sat in her usual place near the door. Tom lay on his bed, still shaken but strangely calm inside. He understood now that danger was real, but he also understood something else. He was not powerless. The station would not be safe for long, but with Myra's strength and his ideas, they had a chance. And for the first time since she had arrived, Tom whispered into the silence, maybe this can work. Myra's silver eyes caught the starlight as she answered softly, it must. The engineering bay was quiet again. The alarms had stopped, the doors had been repaired, and the station's daily life returned to normal. But for Tom, nothing felt the same. Every step he took reminded him of the raid, of Myra fighting like a storm, and of the moment his quick trap had saved them both. He sat at his workbench, repairing one of the damaged motion sensors. Myra stood by the door as usual, her staff resting against her shoulder. You know, Tom said as he tightened a screw, I was scared out of my mind yesterday. But when my trap worked, it felt different. For the first time, I felt useful in a fight. Myra's silver eyes fixed on him. You were useful. Your mind turned the fight. Strength alone is not always enough. Tom smiled faintly. Coming from you, that sounds like a real compliment. It is not compliment, Myra said seriously. It is truth. Tom chuckled softly. Myra's way of speaking was always direct. There was no sugar-coating, no attempt to make words softer. But maybe that was why he was starting to trust her. She never lied, and she never tried to make him feel better with empty words. Later that day, Tom invited Myra to look at his tools. He explained how humans used simple machines to solve problems. He showed her how a lever could move heavy objects, and how a small piece of wire could carry enough current to power lights. Myra listened carefully, her head tilting as if she was studying every detail. Your tools are simple, she said, but you use them in many ways. That is rare. That is what humans do best, Tom replied. We take what little we have and make it work. Myra nodded slowly. I begin to understand. Your strength is not in your body. It is in your thinking. For Tom, those words carried weight. All his life, he had thought of himself as ordinary, just a quiet engineer who preferred machines over people. But Myra was showing him that his way of thinking was valuable, not just to the station, but to survival itself. As the days passed, their routine grew easier. Myra still guarded him at every step, but her silence was no longer heavy. She asked more questions now. Sometimes about the machines. Sometimes about humans. One night, when they returned to their room, Tom caught Myra staring at the small shelf above his bed. On it were a few old books and a photo of Earth. What is this? Myra asked, pointing at the picture. That's Earth, Tom explained. It is where humans come from. I have not been there in years, but I keep the picture to remind me of home. Myra studied it closely. Your world looks peaceful. Sometimes it is, Tom said with a small smile. Sometimes it is not. But it is home, and that makes it important. Myra stayed quiet for a moment before she spoke again. My world does not look like this. It is a place of stone and fire. We do not take pictures to remember it. We carry it in scars. Tom nodded softly. He could not imagine a life where war was the only memory. Maybe that is why you fight so hard. For you, survival is not just about living. It is about carrying the weight of your world. Myra gave a slow nod. Yes. And now I carry the duty of protecting you. Tom leaned back against the wall. I guess that makes us partners then. You with your strength, me with my ideas. Partners, Myra repeated, as if testing the word. Yes. That is the right word. The next morning brought new problems. During a check on the station's outer systems, Tom found strange interference in the power grid. Someone had tampered with the circuits. It was not the raiders outside the station this time. It was someone inside. Tom frowned at the readings. This is not an accident. Someone inside the station is helping them. Myra's eyes narrowed. A traitor. The word sent a chill through Tom. The idea that someone they worked with every day could be secretly helping the raiders was unsettling. But Myra showed no surprise. There is always someone, she said. War teaches me this. Not all enemies are outside. Some are near. Tom looked at the wires again, then at Myra. If that is true, then we cannot trust everyone here. We may have to rely only on each other. Myra nodded. That is why I stay close. Not just to protect you from raiders, but also from those who pretend to be allies. The thought weighed heavily on Tom's mind as they walked back to their room. For the first time, he did not see Myra as a stranger forced upon him. She was someone he needed, someone who understood dangers he had never thought about before. That night, as Myra sat by the door and Tom lay in bed, silence filled the room. But it was not an uncomfortable silence. It was the kind that comes when trust is forming, slow but steady. Tom closed his eyes and thought of the word Myra had repeated earlier. Partners. He had never imagined himself sharing his life with a warrior from another world. Yet now, in the quiet hum of the station, it felt right. For the first time since the attacks began, Tom felt that maybe they had a real chance. Not because of Myra alone. Not because of himself alone. But because together, they were stronger than either could be apart. Tom could not stop thinking about the broken circuits he had found. The raiders had attacked from outside, but this was different. The power grid had been tampered with from inside the station. Someone living among them was helping the enemy. The next morning, Tom sat at his workbench, staring at the readings again. Myra stood behind him, quiet but alert. Her silver eyes scanned the room as if danger might appear at any second. "This is not just damage," Tom said firmly. "The cuts are too clean. Whoever did this knew exactly what to touch. They wanted to weaken the shields without making it obvious." Myra leaned closer, her voice calm but sharp. "So you believe there is a traitor?" Tom nodded slowly. "Yes. And if that is true, the raiders will come again. Only this time, they will know exactly where to strike." Myra placed her hand on the desk. "Then we find the one who did this. Do you know where to begin?" Tom hesitated. The engineering team was small, and he had worked with them for years. It was hard to believe that one of them could betray the station. Yet the evidence was clear. "There are only 5 people who have access to the sector," Tom said. "If the sabotage happened here, it must be one of them." Myra gave a small nod. "Then we watch them. I will observe their movements. You will observe their work. Between us, truth will show." That day, Tom tried to act normal. He greeted his team, fixed panels, and ran his usual checks. But inside, he was studying every face, every motion. Myra stayed close, silent as always, yet Tom could see her eyes following the others. Hours passed before anything unusual happened. One of Tom's co-workers, a thin man named Joran, left the engineering bay early. He claimed he needed to check storage. Tom had worked with Joran for years. He was quiet, dependable, never causing trouble. But something about the timing made Tom uneasy. When Joran left, Myra touched Tom's shoulder. "He hides something. I see it in his walk, too fast, too nervous." Tom frowned. "He could just be in a hurry. Or he carries guilt," Myra replied. "Humans show it in small ways. My eyes are trained to see." Tom wanted to believe Joran was innocent, but doubt had already begun to grow. That evening, Tom and Myra returned to their room. Tom sat on his bed, staring at the floor. "What if you are right? What if someone I trusted is helping the raiders? That means no place here is safe." Myra answered with calm certainty. "That is why you must rely on me. Trust is earned, not given. I will help you see who is true and who is not." Tom looked at her, realizing how much he already relied on her. At first, he had resisted the idea of sharing his space. Now, he could not imagine surviving without her sharp eyes and steady presence. The next day, Tom decided to test something. He left a small data chip on his desk, pretending it held important files. It was just a blank chip, but he wanted to see if anyone would try to take it. Myra watched silently as he placed it. Hours later, when Tom returned from a repair outside the bay, the chip was gone. His heart raced. Only a few people had been in the room. "It is proof," Tom whispered. Myra nodded. "Yes. The traitor is close. But we do not strike yet. We wait, and we see where he takes it." That night, Myra convinced Tom to stay awake. Together they moved quietly through the station, following Joran at a distance. He carried a small bag and walked as if he did not want to be seen. Tom's stomach sank. Joran slipped into a dark service tunnel, looking around before he entered. Myra and Tom followed in silence. From behind the shadows, they watched as Joran pulled out a communicator, its light glowing faintly. "He is sending a signal," Tom whispered. Myra's hand tightened on her weapon. "To the raiders." Tom's heart sank. The truth was clear. His friend, the man he had trusted for years, was the traitor. Before Joran could finish the transmission, Myra stepped forward, her staff raised. "Stop." Joran froze, his face pale. "You do not understand," he stammered. "I had no choice. They promised me safety. They said they would leave me alive if I helped them." Tom stared at him, anger and sadness mixing inside. "And what about the rest of us? What about everyone on this station?" Joran lowered his head. "I thought only one life mattered." "Mine." Myra moved closer, her voice firm. "Cowardice is not safety. You would have doomed them all." She knocked the communicator from his hand and bound his wrists with a restraint band. The council later took Joran away, and the traitor's name spread quickly across the station. People whispered in shock, but they also felt relief that the truth had been revealed. That night, Tom sat in his room, staring at the stars through the small window. Myra stood as always by the door. "You saw it before I did," Tom admitted. "I wanted to believe he was loyal, but you saw the truth." Myra's voice was calm. "You see machines. I see people. Together, we see more." Tom nodded slowly. "We really are partners." Myra's silver eyes glinted in the dim light. "Yes. And we must be ready. With the traitor gone, the raiders will come again. Stronger than before." Tom lay back, feeling the weight of her words. The enemy was not finished. But now, with Myra beside him, he felt ready to face whatever came next. The station felt tense after Joran was exposed as a traitor. People worked in silence, avoiding each other's eyes. Trust had been broken, and fear hung in the air. Everyone knew the raiders would return. The question was not if, but when. Tom tried to keep busy in the engineering bay. He checked every circuit and shield generator, determined not to leave a single weak spot. Myra stayed close, always watching, her weapon never far from her hand. One afternoon, as Tom adjusted the main power grid, the alarm rang again. This time it was louder, deeper, more urgent. Red lights flashed across every wall. "Incoming ships," Myra said quickly. Her voice was calm but firm. "Many more than before." Tom's stomach tightened. "How many?" "Too many," Myra answered. She grabbed her staff and pulled him toward the control room. "This is the full invasion." The council shouted orders through the intercom. Defense crews rushed to their stations. Fighters launched from the hangar, but the raiders were faster. Dozens of enemy ships surrounded the station, firing at the shields. The walls shook as explosions thundered outside. Tom stumbled but kept running beside Myra. "If the shields fall, we are finished." "Then we make sure they do not," Myra replied. They reached the engineering bay, but already enemy forces had breached the outer hull. Alarms screamed as doors sealed automatically. Tom saw the security cameras flicker with images of raiders flooding the corridors. "They are spreading everywhere," Tom said, his voice tight. "We will not hold them back for long." Myra stood tall, her silver eyes sharp. "Then we hold this place. Engineering is the heart of the station. If it falls, all else falls with it." Tom nodded. He had no weapon like Myra, but he had something else. He ran to the main console and began rerouting power. "I can lock down the bay. Seal the doors with extra current. It will take a lot of energy, but it might buy us time." Myra positioned herself near the entrance, ready to fight. Do it. I will hold whatever breaks through. Tom's fingers flew across the keys. Sparks flew as he forced the circuits to overload, welding doors shut with raw power. The lights dimmed, but the barriers strengthened. The first wave of raiders hit the doors, pounding with heavy weapons. The metal shook, but it held. Myra stood ready, her weapon glowing bright. Tom, she called, they will not stop. Be ready. I am ready, he said, though his heart raced. He worked quickly, setting traps with whatever tools he had. Small shock wires along the floor, pressure sensors near the vents, even an improvised flash bomb from a broken light. The pounding grew louder until the doors finally cracked. A group of raiders forced their way inside. Myra moved like lightning, her staff striking with deadly precision. Tom triggered the traps. Electricity shot across the floor, dropping 2 raiders instantly. A flash of light blinded another, giving Myra time to finish him. Good, Myra said between strikes. Keep thinking. Keep building. More raiders came, wave after wave. Myra fought with skill and speed, but even she could not stop them all at once. Tom rerouted power again, sealing sections of the bay to slow the attackers. Each system he controlled gave Myra an edge. At one point, a raider broke through and aimed a weapon directly at Tom. Fear froze him for a moment, but Myra leapt across the room, blocking the shot with her staff. She pushed the attacker back with a strike so fast that Tom barely saw it. Stay alive, she said sharply. Do not freeze again. Tom swallowed hard. I will not. I promise. The battle raged on. The station shook under heavy fire, but the engineering bay held. Tom's traps and Myra's strength made them an unbreakable team. Finally, after what felt like hours, the alarms shifted tone. The council broadcast across the station. Enemy ships retreating. The invasion is broken. All units hold positions. Tom leaned against the console, exhausted. His hands shook from the strain of constant work. Myra lowered her weapon, her chest rising and falling with slow breaths. They are leaving? Tom asked. For now, Myra said. But they will return. Stronger still. Tom looked at her, his voice steady despite his tiredness. Then we will be ready. You and me. Together. Myra studied him for a moment. Yes. Together. You fight in your way. I fight in mine. That is why we survived. Tom gave a small smile. I guess we are more than just guard and engineer now. We are a team. Myra's silver eyes softened. A bond is forming. One that the enemy cannot break. Outside, the stars glittered cold and distant, but inside the engineering bay, Tom felt something new. Hope. The raiders had thrown everything they had at the station, and still, he and Myra had stood their ground. It was only the beginning, but he believed now that humanity had something the enemy would never understand. Creativity, courage, and the ability to stand strong beside allies, even those from another world. And as long as Myra remained at his side, Tom knew he would never face the darkness alone. The station was quiet after the big invasion. For the first time in days, the alarms were silent, and the corridors were calm. Tom walked slowly through the engineering bay, inspecting systems. Most of the damage had been repaired, but the memory of the battle still lingered. Myra followed him, silent as always. She had stood at his side through every attack, fought raiders without hesitation, and kept him alive when he could not protect himself. He felt an odd mix of gratitude and respect. You worked well during the fight, Tom said, breaking the silence. I would not have survived without you. Myra's silver eyes met his. You also worked well. Your mind saved lives. That is why we survived. Tom smiled faintly. I guess that means we both had to do our part. Not just me, not just you. Yes, Myra said softly. Strength and thought together. That is why we are effective. Tom paused at a console, watching the flickering lights. He realized how much had changed in a short time. He had always thought of himself as ordinary, weak in a world of danger. But Myra had shown him another truth. Even someone like him could matter when they were willing to think and act. I never expected all this, Tom said quietly. To have a bodyguard. To face raiders. To see people I trusted betray us. Myra studied him for a moment. Unexpected events happen. Life is not always safe. But you adapted. You learned to trust me. That is important. Tom looked at her, remembering the first day she had told him he must share a room with her. At the time, he had felt uncomfortable, even afraid. Now, he understood why. Her presence had saved his life more than once. She had been more than a guard, she had been a partner, a guide, and even a friend in a way he could not have imagined. Do you think it will be quiet for a while? He asked. Quiet does not last, Myra said simply. Threats always return. But preparation can last. Knowledge can last. And we are ready. Tom nodded slowly. He felt a confidence he had never had before. Then we keep watching. We keep learning. Together. Myra's gaze softened almost imperceptibly. Yes. Together. That night, as they returned to their shared room, Tom noticed how different it felt now. At first, he had seen the room as a small, uncomfortable space he had to share with someone he did not know. Now, it felt safe. Myra's presence was no longer intimidating, it was reassuring. He sat on his bed, looking at the small pile of books on the shelf and the photo of Earth. I never thought I would be ready for anything like this, he said. Myra stood near the door, her eyes scanning the hallway even in the quiet of the night. Readiness comes from experience. You have learned. We have learned. That is why survival is possible. Tom realized that learning to trust her had been just as important as learning to fight or defend the station. He had grown, not only as an engineer but as someone capable of facing danger. Myra had taught him that protection was more than strength, it was knowledge, planning, and courage. He looked at her and smiled faintly. I think we make a good team. Yes, Myra said, her voice firm but calm. A strong team. One that will continue to survive. For a long moment, they both looked at the stars through the small window. The station was safe for now, but they knew the raiders could return. And yet, fear had been replaced by confidence. They had faced danger together and survived. Tom felt a sense of peace he had not known before. He realized that sharing a room with Myra, once uncomfortable, had been the key. Not just to his safety, but to learning trust and partnership. The alien beside him had shown him that survival was more than individual strength. It was connection. I guess life is different now, Tom said softly. I used to think I was alone. Now, I know I am not. Myra's silver eyes met his. You are not alone. I am here. And you have learned to be strong, not just for yourself, but with others. Tom leaned back, letting the tension leave his shoulders. For the first time in weeks, he felt truly calm. He was ready for the future, whatever it might bring. And Myra, standing at her post, remained vigilant. She was no longer only a guardian. She was a partner, a constant presence, and a silent promise of safety. Together, they had faced betrayal, invasion, and fear. Together, they had survived. In the quiet hum of the station, with the stars shining outside, Tom understood one simple truth. Survival was never about standing alone. It was about trusting those who stood beside you, even when they were different, even when it was uncomfortable. And in that shared understanding, a new bond had formed. A bond between a human and an alien, between strength and thought, between courage and trust. The future was uncertain, but one thing was certain: Tom and Myra would face it together.